Episode 127, Our Favorite Video Game Movies. This week we'll be discussing video game to movie adaptations, the good, the bad, the ugly, and why we love them oh so much. Well, let's get to it. Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. This is Daniel, the host of the show. We've also got with us Nate, Angela, and Joe. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hey there, I'm Angela, and I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I like to draw things sometimes, so if you're interested in checking out some graphite pencil portrait fan arts, you can check me out on Facebook at Art by Angela Brock, or on Instagram, and I am Angela Brock _art over there.
And it's good. Go check it out.
This is Joe from New Braunfels, Texas, and I run a YouTube show called Pop Culture Geekery, and you can find me at popculturegeekery.com.
And this is Nate. You can find me on any of the socials at either Nate Gunn or Interviso Creative, and just a bunch of video fun stuff. So, yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of take turns and talk about our favorite video games that were adapted into movies, whether we like them because they were bad or we like them regardless that they were bad, or hey, maybe they were good. We'll find out. So I'll start with my first one on my list, and it is Mortal Kombat. So this game, well, now the game that the movie came from, of course, has a special place in my heart. I'm a 90s kid. Well, I was born in 88, but I don't quite remember 88 and 89. So it's all a blur, a lot of crying. I actually did have a colic, so sorry, Mom and Dad. But the 90s, I do remember very well, and many, many hours were spent playing Mortal Kombat at my friend's house because, my mom wouldn't let me have that game. So I love the game. The sounds, the visual is burned into my memory. And so, later in the 90s, when the movie came out, I was just eating that up. And I don't know how many times I watched that movie. And so I'm sentimental about it, but going back and rewatching clips from it, it's kind of cringy.
Yeah.
So this is kind of one of those ones that it's on my list because
nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia. It was cool for when it came out. There wasn't anything else like that happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it tried to take itself seriously, which is good. I feel like some adaptations don't take themselves seriously enough to get to that over that threshold where it makes it good. But this movie did take the Mortal Kombat universe, as weird as it is, pretty seriously, and they just made it happen. So on IMDb, this movie has a 5.8 out of 10, not great, and Rotten Tomatoes is 47%. So close ratings there. The budget for the movie was $20 million, and the box office made $122.1 million. So it did really well. Probably just because, the franchise was really hot in the 90s, and they had a little bit of star power, and I'm sure the trailer looked really cool and exciting. So all the little boys just begged their parents to death to watch the movie.
Mommy.
Yeah. So I found some interesting facts about the movie that you may not have known. The soundtrack for the movie actually went platinum in less than 2 weeks.
Wait, what? Is it just because of the theme song?
Probably partially because of that, but the rest of the soundtrack apparently is decent. I don't remember it now. I'm totally gonna go listen to it. Next editing session I have, I'm totally like blaring that whole album.
Daniel's just gonna be like jumping through doorways in his house, just doing flying kicks and rolls. Even children are gonna be like, "Oh my god, what is happening?"
Do I need to share my secret stuff that I do at home alone?
Sorry.
No lie, one of my childhood fantasies was to be a ninja, and at one point, my brother and I, whose wasn't? But my brother and I, we made like a training course in our backyard that had like different stations, and it was all planned out, and it was just so cute. It was pretty awesome.
Ninja Warrior.
Ninja Warrior in his
before it was cool. We were doing it. So soundtrack went platinum. Bridget Wilson, who plays Sonya Blade, she performed all her own stunts, including the one that dislocated her shoulder.
Oh.
So she
Ow.
got hurt a few times.
That's called method acting.
Yeah.
Go figure, right? I think it's pretty cool. The actor who played Liu Kang fractured his rib or ribs and didn't tell anyone because he didn't want to be taken off of the cast and, slow things down. He basically didn't want to ruin his career is what he thought it would do. So he sucked it up and got through those scenes with cracked ribs.
No.
And ouch, he said it hurt a lot.
That movie was not worth it.
No. Ouch, hot take, but true. Yeah. Speaking of casting, Jean-Claude Van Damme turned down the role to be Johnny Cage so that he could be in Street Fighter. And
is that the smart choice? I don't think so. I don't know.
I don't know. Was the Street Fighter movie better than Mortal Kombat? Or were they about the same? What do you think, Joe?
Oh, definitely it's better. Mortal Kombat's way better.
Oh, really? You think Mortal Kombat?
That's what I was.
I need to rewatch it. No, I said earlier they had star power in this movie. They almost had a lot of star power because they didn't get Jean-Claude Van Damme. They almost had Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, but he died in his accident shooting the crow. So he was going to be Johnny Cage. And then they tried to get Cameron Diaz to play Sonya Blade, and I don't know why she turned it down, but she did. And then they also tried to get Sean Connery to play Raiden. That'd be funny.
What in the world?
After him being in what is that, Highlander, it was just like strange.
Wow.
It's bad. So
Nobody can do a good Sean Connery.
you know why those names are big now? It's because because they weren't in Mortal Kombat. So true.
Yeah.
A few more things here. Christopher Lambert, who actually did play Raiden, and which I've never seen before after that movie. Christopher Lambert played Raiden. He dubbed himself in the French version of the film. So apparently he's fluent in French, and he's like, "Oh, I got this, guys. You don't need to hire anybody. I'll do it myself."
That is
So pretty cool. I'm sure
There
he
you go.
enjoyed that. Yeah. Oh man, the last episode. I'm sorry. Any French people listening to this podcast, I love you.
Oh, goodbye, French
But-
audience. It was nice knowing you.
The accents of one Nate Gunn do not represent the feelings of the podcast.
Yes, put that disclaimer there. Thank you. Funny. All right. Ed Boon is the co-creator of the Mortal Kombat game franchise, and he actually voiced Scorpion's character in the movie. So the guy who played Scorpion was just a stunt guy, but ended up getting the role of Scorpion.
Oh, cool.
But because he has a face mask on, it probably couldn't even record his voice at
Right.
all. So Ed Boon, who made the game, he's like, "I'll do it." So yeah, the creator or co-creator is the voice of Scorpion. And I'm wondering if he's actually the guy who did the original voicings of "Get over here" and some of the other sound effects. I don't know. It may have been. Was he the guy that popped in and said "Toasty"? You remember that?
Oh my gosh, I remember that meme, but
I think that was him.
don't know what.
Yeah, I think that was Ed Boon that popped in on top of the screen and says "Toasty." That might be him. So apparently he likes cameos. Did you know that when they were making the Mortal Kombat game, they actually videoed the martial artists? They had actors do the moves and do the all of the motions and things like that, and they turned the video into 8-bit graphics. That's why it looks quote unquote real. It's not like CGI or pixel art. It's like actual actors on screen. And some of the footage actually surfaced recently. You can actually find unedited, screened, whatever video of the guys doing the moves, like running up the invisible stairs to do the uppercut and things like that. It's just weird to see what they used to make the game.
Yeah, gave it that distinctive look.
It was very unique. Yeah, I think that's why I liked it as a kid, because it had a new level of realism that other games didn't have. Also, the filming locations that they used in Thailand were so remote that they were only accessible through boat and canoes. So I'm sure the video crew had a great time transporting all their
The
gear.
whole production crew must have been through a lot trying to get their stuff over there.
I wonder how
can't
much damage they
imagine.
had.
At the end, they're like, "We're tired."
Yeah. So we were watching the movie. This was 95, but man, there's some bad CGI. It's bad. It's crazy to think that this is just 5 to 6 years away from Fellowship of the Ring and The Matrix. Which,
don't
had some impressive effects, but
can't think of it like that.
I think just those late 90s, those last 5 years in the 90s, like computer power and software was just like exponentially getting better and better.
Yeah.
And
But I think it's 2 years after the original Jurassic Park too. Which
Yeah.
is,
they had some good scenes too for what they had to work with. I can't imagine how slow those computers were. Oh.
Rendering for days and days.
I think one of the downsides to this movie, though, is something we see every now and then where actors are playing martial artists and not the other way around. So now, and the actors weren't even that impressive, mind you, but they weren't martial artists already. You know, like they came in and had to learn stuff, most likely go through training and do their best to act the role of a martial art master.
Yeah.
But you can tell the choreography is not great. Just kind of going through the moves, and it's just like, oh, you're like an upcoming actor trying to be a lifelong.
I have a feeling I'm the only one here with actual love for this movie.
You know me.
I remember sitting in the theater, and when that logo comes, blazing on the screen and yelling "Mortal Kombat," that's just seared into my mind. So maybe it's just that nostalgic feeling.
Funny.
That's awesome. Even now with the bad CGI and everything, maybe it's my like personal. What's that one called? A Big Trouble in Little China. You know, some people love that movie, and I go back and watch that. I'm like, I can't watch this, but maybe this is my Big Trouble in Little China.
I like that. Yeah. There you go. So, did you guys know that they're doing a reboot next year of this movie?
Wait, what?
I'm excited. Mortal Kombat. I'm excited.
Oh my. Uh-oh.
Same director.
Yeah.
Standalone?
Yeah, we just reviewed the animated one that came out like a month or two ago.
What? I didn't even know about that. What's that? What's that story?
It's called like Mortal Kombat Legends, and it's called Scorpion's Revenge. So it's, pick your most popular character, put him in an animated movie, make it really violent, and
Try to make money.
And if it does well, we'll make more.
I see. What style of animation was it? Like the DC animated ones, or?
Yeah, it's leaning towards more of that for sure. If it was animated overseas, it definitely does not have an anime look at all.
Was it like, what is it rated?
R.
Yeah,
for sure. It's got some brutal kills in there.
Well, the main fan audience of this is like 21 and older, so yeah. They can still get money from that. So I think there's a few people already cast for the upcoming movie, but I'm excited, to see this wild fantasy martial arts story kind of updated in the 21st century filmmaking and martial arts and things like that. So hoping they don't just get a bunch of actors to play martial artists. I hope they get acting martial artists to do martial arts moves, because I like when I see good, like, skilled fighters. Have you guys played any of the recent Mortal Kombat games?
I haven't played any of them. Honestly, I'm not too big into fighting games.
10.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with the story, but it seems like they've gone some really wild places with like alternate universes and stuff, because now you've got RoboCop and I think Arnold Schwarzenegger and just weird characters. I'm like, what is happening to my Mortal Kombat? This is not cool. So, I don't know.
Like
It's become Celebrity Deathmatch.
Weird version of Super Smash Brothers or something.
So true. So that's it for my Mortal Kombat 1995. Rest in peace. Maybe one boring rainy day I'll rewatch it and I'll just realize how bad it is.
But is it worse than Christmas Special? That's
Nothing's
Never.
worse than Christmas.
Never. Joe, have you seen the Star Wars Christmas Special?
I can't. I've seen, and you know how big of a Star Wars fan I am.
That's the correct answer.
I can't. I've seen reviews of it, so it can show me each part.
Yes,
and that's about as far as I've gotten. So
put it this way: we're so dedicated to podcasting that we watched the entire thing, and it was long.
No, Nate fell asleep and had like horrific fever dreams.
I fell asleep in one of the scenes, and I woke up. I was like, "Yeah, we're not doing that again." Nope.
I still have PTSD, so.
I thought we were supposed to pick one bad movie and one that we like, so that's why I have Street Fighter on my list.
Okay. Sorry. Which one is it? The one you love?
No, we'll go with the one that I remember being bad,
all right,
even back then, which is Street Fighter. God, what year was that? I didn't even look at it. Let's see here. That was 94.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that was 2 days before Christmas. What a Christmas present that year.
Oh, my God.
We're going to watch this movie? Oh,
it's going to be amazing.
Never mind.
So, I mean, when you asked about this versus the Mortal Kombat movie, at least the Mortal Kombat movie makes sense. Like, you can actually follow it to the end, and you're like, okay, I understood the story, you
Yeah.
know. Street Fighter is just all over the place, and you know, you complain about the effects in Mortal Kombat. Street Fighter is worse. You've got Blanca as the Incredible Hulk, and I'm talking like the Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk. You know, like that was with slow motion running and everything too. I remember that.
That's great.
And, unfortunately, it was Raul Julia's last movie before he passed away, who y'all remember as Gomez from the Addams Family movies of the 90s.
Wow.
There's been rumors that Van Damme was on drugs while shooting this movie,
Oh, dang.
which is probably the only way he was able to get through it.
That's what I was about to say. Maybe.
Raul Julia pretty much just did the role because his kids were fans of the game.
Nice.
And he's probably the most entertaining thing about this movie. I mean, he is the traditional over-the-top villain, and I mean, when him and Van Damme fight at the end, it's like, really? Would you ever pair these two to fight in any movie? These two actors, I mean.
So weird. I need to rewatch that scene. I bet that's
It's
cringy.
like, is this Time Cop versus Gomez Adams? So,
That's awesome. How many times did Jean-Claude Van Damme do the splits in that movie? How many times?
I don't know, but he does do the famous Guile backwards kick at least once, maybe twice, which was probably the other highlight of the movie because it happens at the very end.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the last things you
Finishing
remember before
move.
it's finally over. Oh, and there's a group freeze frame at the end where everybody
they jump?
poses, and it's just
Are they jumping
it's
in
like
the
a Power
air too,
Rangers.
or
yeah,
So anime.
which they kind of do in Mortal Kombat, but not to the extent that Street
Not
Fighter
that bad.
did it. Like, you could take the Street Fighter one, you can make a desktop out of it. You know, it's right
funny.
there for you. So, oh man, it's probably a step above the Star Wars special.
oh my,
honestly.
that's bad.
Just barely.
Is that the movie where the M. Bison, of course, meme comes from?
Yes,
That's the only thing I've ever
that's
seen.
That's exactly where it comes from.
That's the only thing I've ever seen.
I don't
from
think
that
I've seen
movie
that
ever.
meme.
It's pretty old, but
Oh,
I remember
mhm.
that being a thing like several years back. Yeah, I have to look it
Yeah.
up later.
I watched Nostalgia Critic, and he uses it a lot.
Yeah, I think
on
that's where
YouTube.
I've seen it for the first time, like 10 years ago.
Funny.
When the film was released on VHS the next year, it sold more than 250,000 rentals.
Dang.
So apparently other people thought it was much better than I
Oh
did.
my, that's crazy.
Even as a kid.
Well, there's only one way to find out. You got to get it, and then you see it.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, like, I wonder how well it did at the box office. Like, did it make its money back? Or...
Yeah, it says here it had a $35 million budget, and it made 99.4 at the
dang.
box
Well, it
office.
didn't do
So
half
almost crossed the 100 million mark. Almost.
Wow. All right. Well, good for them, I guess.
Yeah, 3 times. They made back 3 times the
That's
budget.
not what I was expecting.
Whew. We dodged a bullet there, guys. Good job.
Yeah.
At least they got that.
Dang.
Assassin's Creed is like a very long video game franchise.
Yeah,
And
no kidding.
the movie came out in 2016, and dude, I was super excited about the idea of it coming out.
Yeah.
Apparently not everybody else. They got 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. So,
Wow, that's bad.
I was like, so I got rated like a 3.9 out of 10.
I saw it when it came out, and I enjoyed it for a movie, a standalone movie, but I had never played the games, so I wasn't coming from like a faithful adaptation mindset.
made the
I was
nerds
like, this
upset.
movie is cool.
Well, I guess don't feel bad because even the main actor didn't even know it was a game franchise.
What?
What?
Oh my god!
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Didn't it have the young Magneto, Michael
Yeah,
Fassbender?
Mhm.
Yeah.
He apparently, as I was reading, he took on the role and had no. Apparently, I want to say it's fake, but apparently he had no knowledge that this was an actual video game franchise.
How in the heck do you
I think that's
know?
false information, but
Let's hope so.
anyways.
Yeah.
But dude, they put a lot of work into this. They started filming out in Spain, and
Yeah, they went all out for that.
Oh yeah,
They had one of the highest stunt falls like ever done in a
yeah.
movie.
So they CGI'd what's called the leap of faith in the video game,
Mm-hmm.
and this was a real fall that he did. But they might as well just made it CGI as much stuff as they put on it. He jumped 125 feet and was in the air for 3 seconds, and the impact on the bottom was 61 miles per hour.
Oh,
Dang.
smash.
So
That's scary.
It's like terminal velocity, I bet.
yeah,
Dang.
but as I was I agree, and as I was reading, all the CGI they added to that leap of faith fall, which is like the iconic jump that they do in the game, they could have just made it CGI. It just looked fake.
They just did it for publicity, I think, and just to make a record. Was it actual Fassbender doing the fall, or did they switch and do a stunt
so
guy?
they had another stunt guy, and his name, I'm not even gonna try to say that, but anyways.
Is it French? Because I can say French names.
Yeah, let's see. Never mind, I could say that. Damian Walters. I found it. Sorry, I was reading another article about stunt guys. And
American name.
He thought it was Walters.
Yeah, but dude, I was so bummed. From the video game side, I was like, well, okay. There's a lot of open-ended stuff, but I was totally digging the costumes. And of course, they took about 2 to 3 months to make each costume, and they had like 8 versions of each costume. I was like, dude. So their budget was $125 million US.
Dang.
And they only grossed $54.6 million.
What?
No.
Wow.
That's terrible.
Not good.
Over worldwide, I think they got their money back, but yeah, in the US they did not.
Okay, so domestically.
I wonder why that was.
Canada gave them 186.3 million, and other worldwide they got a 240.9 million. So they did get their money back, but
okay,
over the world, not just.
Right.
I wonder if like the fanboys were like already on the case before it actually came out, and they're like, "This is not going to be faithful, so don't go see it." You know, I don't know.
Probably. I'm not sure.
Maybe the gaming community wasn't too hard on it. Could have been great. I would love to if it did really good, and maybe it's more faithful to the game. It would have been cool if they kept it going and maybe do like 3 or 4 of them.
Well, apparently they want to do a sequel to it, but with a rating of 18%, that's going to be tough.
Dang.
Backers are not going to back that.
There's a big storyline to the game, and there's not an end date so far. Right. I mean, the next game coming out is Viking.
Yeah, the game is a great setup for an ongoing franchise because it kind of has a full version of time travel, and it's great.
You have
so many
medieval,
of them.
You have pirates, you have Native American,
Egypt, Rome.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now, have you played the games?
I have. The last one I did not play. I did not play the Odyssey. I was not a fan. Playing about 5 or 10 minutes, I was like, it's kind of boring.
Are there major discrepancies with the adaptation from game to film? Like,
it's kind of like they started at the very beginning. They kind of started in the middle, kind of like Star Wars, kind of jumping back and forth. I'm a little foggy on this, so don't hold to what I'm saying. But as I understand, some lab experimental Adam had some human, basically their Adam Eve kind of thing. They stole like this apple, but it was a way of seeing a portal into like the future, and giving them all these clues and stuff. That's where I'm foggy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't played that game.
I thought it was like a eternal life kind of thing.
I think so. I haven't played the first one since it came out. Back in 2010.
Even earlier than that, like 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
Early PS3, Xbox 360.
But it's an interesting, because you jump into from current day, you jump back in as like in the movie, he didn't recognize who he was, and then I was like, oh, he realized what was happening. That's a whole rabbit hole we could go down of just back and forth of trying to figure it out. I mean, there's even talk about the whole, anybody knows what Splinter Cell is, the Sam Fisher.
Oh my gosh.
Saying that's part of the franchise. So it's just a long hole of conversation we can go back and forth with.
I know this is supposed to be our favorite movie list, but I've only seen like 2 video game movie adaptations, so I guess these are going to be my favorite.
The only ones.
Yeah. So I'll start off with Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. No, I've seen this movie a number of times, but it's been a number of years since I've seen it last, so might be a little foggy on some details. This came out back in 2005, and around
Wow.
that time period, that's when people were really starting to want like a remade Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII is the most popular
a
Final
while.
Fantasy, like
Yeah.
by
most
far.
popular RPG.
Yeah, by like a huge margin, and I don't know if around then that's when PS3 tech demo came out, where they showed like the opening scene from Final Fantasy VII get remade with PS3 graphics, and people were like losing their
Ooh.
minds over the prospect of it. But basically, yeah, this came out at a good time. This movie did, because people wanted to see, more realistic looking Final Fantasy. They wanted to see the characters not look like Legos, basically, because that's what they looked like back in the day on the PlayStation
20 polygons.
1. Mm-hmm. So it was like, by all standards, this movie did pretty well for Final Fantasy fan boys and fangirls, just because it looked really pretty compared to all the other Final Fantasy stuff in the past.
I can back Angela up on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it. I want to see it. So when you,
man,
I probably watched
you
it on
said you were-
YouTube or something back in the day. Full
when you
movie.
said you were going to cover Final Fantasy, I was like, oh, the spirits within. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about the
2001.
better one.
No.
I've heard of
That
the
was
Spirits
weird because it
Within.
was like nothing related to Final Fantasy.
Really, I've heard of it, and I've heard it was not good, so I've never bothered
Yeah.
to see that one.
I mean, it was a visual, spectacle when it first came out.
Yeah,
it was like
I'm
the
sure.
Avatar of 2001.
Oh really?
But I don't remember the story held up. But I also don't remember anything related to other Final Fantasy, story elements at all.
Yeah.
Like it could have just had its own name and been something else. But
Mm-hmm.
no. Anyway.
Yeah. No.
So the Final Fantasy VII remake is a good one, huh?
I mean, I haven't played the remake or anything. Like, that's recent, but this
I mean
came
the
out.
movie, sorry.
Yeah, no. The movie, it's fun. It's a fun watch, especially back then. I don't know if it's aged so well nowadays, since the remake is out. We have that to compare it to. But back then,
That's
this was
amazing.
like, this we took what we could get, and this is what we got. And
Yeah.
back then it was pretty fun. So the movie takes place 2 years after the game, after the end of the game. And I don't know if I want to spoil anything like from the game or the movie, since people are getting into it again. But I know everybody knows who like Sephiroth is. I think who's played Final Fantasy. They know he's the big bad in Final Fantasy VII. The movie starts off with the characters trying to get back to normal life and stuff. But there's this new virus that's starting to infect people and children, and the main hero, Cloud, has got it. And I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it stemmed from this creature called Genova, which in Final Fantasy VII is like this alien terrestrial life form that had been stuck on Earth for centuries, I believe, and was basically used to create Sephiroth into this big superhuman monster, basically. And okay, spoilers. Anybody who wants to play Final Fantasy VII, just stop listening, probably. But Sephiroth, Sephiroth is dead. By the time I know who would have guessed, but Sephiroth is dead by the time the movie comes around. But these 3 entities show up, and they're like physical manifestations of his lingering spirit or whatever. And they're called Kadaj. Yeah, Kadaj, Laws, and Yazoo. Yeah, those aren't the dumbest names. And they're basically trying to resurrect Sephiroth again by trying to steal some remains of Genova that are still lingering around.
What could possibly go wrong?
I know.
But they had no idea he was already in Kingdom Hearts.
I don't know how he ended up there. That's a whole nother can of worms right there.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, that's probably as far into the plot as I'll go, because honestly, the plot for this movie is so thin and shallow and not very entertaining, to where that's not why you watch this movie, for the plot. You watch it for all the anime fighting cutscenes in between the exposition and plot. which are really good. Like, I still enjoy watching like the fight scenes to this day. I pulled up a couple on YouTube and like before this episode, and I was still entertained enough. I haven't played the Final Fantasy VII remake at all, so I know that hasn't spoiled the enjoyment of these things for me yet. But
Cool.
yeah, if you went in to try to watch this movie without playing the original game, don't bother
Sure.
because you will be so freaking confused. Like people
Yeah.
have no idea what's
Mhm.
going on.
Oh,
Sure.
good. I just thought I couldn't grasp what was happening.
Oh, did you try to watch some of
A
it
little bit.
before?
I was like, what is okay? I don't know what's happening.
Oh, I'm
Mm-mm.
sorry. Yeah, you're not. It's
No.
not for you.
It's basically an epilogue to 7, so you have to have played it.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't even try to get people into it who have never played it. It's just for fanboys and fangirls only, pretty much.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Oh man, it was so sought after. I remember it was such like a holy grail to find a copy of this, and then when they finally released legitimate copies, it's like, oh my god!
Oh my gosh, really? Yeah.
One of my friends had the really cool toy of the cloud and his bike from that one.
Oh
I don't
man.
even remember how much that
Oh,
thing
I bet a
cost.
ton of money. I think I've seen it.
much.
It looks really good. Yeah, so this
Cool.
movie was directed by the same guy, Tetsuya Nomura, who directed like the Kingdom Hearts games, and he directed the Final Fantasy VII remake. Just came out, so he's got a lot of
Cool.
experience with that stuff under his belt.
He's an expert.
Mhm. And something I've
Awesome.
recently learned is that when they first wrote up this movie, it was only going to be 20 minutes long. So I found out the synopsis. It says the original story featured someone requesting a message to be sent to Cloud. The message is then relayed to Cloud through several children, and when the message finally reaches Cloud, it is revealed who the messenger is. Like that's all it says. I don't know what the kind of movie this is supposed to be.
Sounds completely uninteresting.
I know. I'm sure
Children
there's a lot
delivering a
to it,
message.
but yeah.
In a world where children deliver messages in a technologically advanced city.
Weird. But like when like all the Final Fantasy VII fans found out a movie was being made and like the hype was really starting to build up hardcore, they
Mhm.
decided to make it a feature-length movie, and that probably explains why the plot's not that great.
Oh, they weren't ready for that little
No.
detail.
No, they
Oops.
expanded it to 100 minutes, so they quintupled the movie's length.
Hmm.
And what's crazy too is they also came out with a complete edition in 2009, and that added another 25 minutes of deleted scenes, and they
The Snyder
fixed that.
cut.
Yeah, right.
That should just be like the term. Don't even say director's cut. These
That's
just
so
say the
funny.
Snyder cut.
Yeah, a lot of people call that the definitive cut of the movie.
Oh,
So
there you go.
I guess I need to see that eventually at some point.
My second movie on my list is Rampage. When this movie was announced that it was coming out, it came out in 2018. I had very low expectations.
Yeah.
First of all, Dwayne Johnson was in it, and nothing against him, but back then, I guess I didn't see his
Hit or
greatness.
miss. Yeah.
But I was just like, oh, great, another macho explosion movie based on this game that admittedly is fun, but it's dumb.
Yeah.
I love the Rampage game. It was just mindless fun. You're literally a monster
Yeah.
destroying buildings and
Mhm.
eating people and blowing
Mhm.
up tanks. Like
Yeah.
that's the
It's
game.
therapy, man.
It is, yeah. And so that's the great part of the game. So I am a fan of the game, but that's kind of furthered my doubt of this movie. I was like, how in the heck are they going to make a movie about this game? Like, there's nothing to go on, and there's no redemptive character. Is you are the bad guy, literally eating innocent people, and getting points for it. So I'm like, how the crap are they going to movie this? But they blew me away. They did a really great job Hollywoodizing this basic idea and just making it a good, solid movie. I'm not saying this is like an Interstellar movie or anything like that, but for what it is, an explosion, semi-kaiju monster movie with The Rock in it, it's good. And so I really, really like the movie. I'd probably give it a 4-star, 4.5 star. But I did find out that apparently the story of the game is that the monsters, the 3 monsters that you can play as, were actually humans at one point. Do y'all know that?
Did
No.
not.
Yeah, like different things happened to these 3 humans, and they turned into the different monsters. Like one was a science experiment, One was radioactive waste. Isn't it always, right? Radioactive waste always does cool stuff to people instead of killing them with cancer. And then like,
except for the Toxic Avenger.
yeah, oh yeah. And then the dog character, the big wolf dog character, was turned into that by a food additive, mind you. So
Oh.
not FDA approved.
Oh boy.
He turned into a giant wolf. Yeah, anyway, so the movie was cool. The VFX were amazing. Like Weta Digital, was like top dog with 3D graphics.
Wait, Weta
Man.
was part of this?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Weta did
Wow,
all
oh my
the creature animations, the simulation, destruction stuff, yeah.
Oh man.
And that's why it's good. This game was actually originally an arcade game. There was also an NES version released in '86, so it's pretty old as far as games go. And then in '97, the Nintendo 64 version came out, which is a Rampage World Tour. It's actually a sequel. The monsters break out of their prison or whatever, and they're destroying more stuff. And that's the one that I grew up with. I grew up playing Nintendo 64 as like my first real gaming system. The movie itself, though, came out on April 13th, 2018, and was directed by Brad Payton. There's a lot of cool little Easter eggs in the movie that point back to the various games. So one of them, which is really on the nose, is there is a Rampage arcade in the guy's office in the movie.
Wow.
So
Easter egg.
yeah, it's like a very weird meta thing there. So the game is there in this rich guy's office. There's another scene where George, which is the huge, albino ape, that Dwayne Johnson's character originally took care of before he mutated. George punches the side of a building and takes a person out of the building and eats it. And that's one of the classic things that you do in the game is you climb up and down, tall high-rise buildings. You just punch the windows out and then destroy it, and you can grab people out and eat them. So that was just like a classic little callback to the game. And Claire, turns out to be the main villain, she actually gets eaten by George, and she's wearing a red dress, which was, if you eat the red dress lady in the game, you get extra points.
Oh my gosh.
So I mentioned Weta Digital doing the VFX in this movie. They had upwards to 15,000 images and 3D scans taken of downtown Chicago so that they could recreate this whole city that would be destroyed and, occupied by military and monsters. And they apparently studied the collapse of the 9/11 towers, the World Trade Towers, and also other earthquake-related damage stuff that they found, like footage and images of buildings, so they could have like accurate simulations and destruction of stuff.
Interesting. That's really cool.
The opening scene was like what really like amazed me because it basically takes place on an alternate version of the International Space Station. And it's all on fire and breaking apart. And there's one survivor, and she's talking to the base down in Houston or whatever. She's like, "Hey, I'm going to the escape pod. Open the door. And they're remotely locking the door on her. And the scientist comes up. She's like, "I need my test samples. We will not open the door until you get the test samples." And meanwhile, the space station is breaking apart, and it looks gorgeous. It looks like amazing. It looks so real. And also occupying the space station is a mutated rat, which is like 3-4 feet long, and it's terrifying. And it escaped, and so they were doing genetic. Yeah, they're doing like CRISPR genetic mutation on steroids, scary stuff. And this test lab rat, they mutated into this monster on the station and killed everybody. So that's the opening scene, and it's amazing. I won't spoil anything else for you. But yeah, I thought the adaptation was good, but they kind of got by easy because there was not a lot to go on.
Yeah, like they could build literally anything around.
Yeah, they had
the plot
it real
of
easy.
destroy buildings, eat people.
Sure. Oh, we can do that in the movie, sure. Yeah. Now, something like Assassin's Creed, that's a different story because there was so much story and depth and seriousness to it. To make a faithful movie adaptation would have been a lot of effort, and you can't please everybody. But Rampage, that's easy. But yeah, I definitely advise you go watch this movie if you like any of those genre staples of destruction and The Rock and monsters. That's pretty cool.
Now I can talk about one I actually
Oh,
like.
no.
For the Resident Evil series. I'm just going to talk about the series as a whole. Although I will admit these movies are probably still considered a guilty pleasure, but I was looking up info here. Did you know that out of the 6 movies they released in 15 years, it's the 1.2 billion that these movies made?
Dang.
Oh my gosh.
That's a lot.
So there was definitely lots of people like me that were just enjoying the mindlessness of them because it's pretty much just an ongoing movie. Like it always ends with a cliffhanger.
Every time.
Yeah. The first one came out in 2002. The last one came out in 2017.
Oh my.
Wow.
So literally 15 years.
Same
man.
cast?
Pretty much, yeah. It's directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, and it stars Mia Jovovich as a brand new character.
Lulu.
Yeah. Except this time she plays Alice. So basically, once they established that first movie, I was like, okay, I see where we're going with this. Like, we're just gonna do this every movie until they get tired. They enjoyed working together so much that Paul and Mia got married.
Oh my gosh!
And are still married.
That happened on The Fifth Element.
I know. I was about to say, what the heck?
So literally, you have a married couple like, honey, what do you feel like doing this year? You want to do another one? Sure, why not?
Getting older, we better hurry up.
She looks the same in all of them.
She does.
What do you mean?
funny.
She never ages.
That's hilarious.
She's gonna be immortal with Betty White. I don't know who else, but
I mean, she is the chosen one, ancient being.
It's true. She
celestial
really
thing.
is an
she
ancient one.
is.
The superior being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, me and my brother played these video games pretty religiously for the first, I want to say, 5 of them.
Yeah.
So we were real familiar with the characters. So, when they chose to go with her, we're like, okay, like, yeah, obviously you've seen The Fifth Element, loved her there and some other stuff she had done. But once we knew she was going to be the focus and all the video game characters kind of came in and made cameos, it was like, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We kind of just accept it, But yeah, they're just mindless action movies. I mean, everyone is exactly the same.
They
Just
got a
different
formula.
Oh
setting,
my gosh.
different cast
That's
of
funny.
well, there's some reoccurring characters. There's some that last through more than one movie besides her. There's an ongoing narrative. I mean, it's not a very complex narrative, but it's ongoing.
In this universe, it's like a T virus, right? Is that what it's called? That caused the whole outbreak?
Yes.
Was it from a pharmaceutical thing or what? What's the deal?
No, it's the company's called the Umbrella Corporation, which is now a pretty infamous meme that you'll see floating around with the whole
Oh my
pandemic.
gosh.
I've
Oh,
seen
no.
people with the umbrella trucks. They're like,
No.
"Hey guys, the vaccine is here."
No.
Let's get it.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So
You have a
Do they
favorite?
a favorite? I don't know. Like I said, they're all kind of the same. so that's why I
All
couldn't
of
just
them.
talk about one of them because it's just like one long story since they always end on a cliffhanger.
So funny.
great.
I will tell you, you were asking me about the dog kick joke. Every trailer has a trailer shot or like a money shot for the trailer. Well, for the first trailer, it was her karate kicking one of the infected dog, pit bull, or no, I'm sorry, Rottweilers.
Oh, a zombie dog.
Like that was the money shot in the trailer.
That's hilarious.
Nobody
Well,
likes those dogs.
Yeah. I meant to go back and see, but I swear that she later in another one of the sequels like does a double kick, like almost like a Van Damme one, and takes out 2 dogs.
Oh.
So my brother and I kept saying, next one she's gonna kick 3 dogs, and then it's just they just keep upping the ante every every
man.
one.
Oh my
That's
God.
funny. You gotta see that.
Yeah, yeah. Her outfits pretty much just became more and more like combat style as they went forward. The very, very first one was that weird kind of half-cut red dress that she wore. One of my friends tried to get one made for a con we went to, and she was already very petite, and the guy just didn't cut it right, and it just didn't fit. I'm like, well, that's pretty much the way Mia wore them in the movies.
It's like turning into like a sexy lingerie outfit when you're fighting zombies. That's totally practical.
No different than Jill
That's why I said it's
Valentine
only the first one.
wearing a 2-top and a mini skirt in like the 3rd game or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
'Cause that's what you want to wear when you're fighting.
see, at least for these movies, they did give, because Jill Valentine does make a cameo. They did give her the full on like military, but she did have her little beret still.
Oh, well, you gotta have that. That's funny. I've never seen or heard much of these movies at all. Do they try to follow the plot of the games at all, like with Raccoon
Yeah,
City,
faithfully.
or they just do their own thing?
No, I mean, other than the zombie apocalypse idea, they just do their own
Okay.
thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because, especially when they stray away from the main characters and relegate them to cameos.
Oh, I didn't know that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We should have done a faithful meter for all of our movies. Grade it 0 to 10. What would you give this one? It sounds like a 1 or 2.
Yeah, no, it's not. It goes down in the faithfulness as it goes forward.
But the money keeps going up.
That's so
It's
funny.
like,
Yeah, they're like they have a checklist. I'm sure they're like, okay, we have Mia, we have her husband directing, we have Umbrella, we
Dog
have the
kick.
zombies,
Yeah.
and we have the dogs, and we need guns, lots of guns. That's all we need for these movies. Oh, and put it in a different setting
yeah.
somewhere.
Oh my god.
There's another podcast I love, and actually kind of inspired me to do this one. It's called Strangers and Aliens, and the main host Ben, he has this funny kind of joke he tells about movie franchises that are just in it for the money, like this. And he basically says it like this: "Hey, you remember that Resident Evil game you really liked? Well, we're gonna give you more of that. So come see this movie because you're gonna get more of that stuff."
Oh my gosh.
And yeah,
gosh.
totally just kind of reels you in, and before you know it, you're like 6 movies down. It's not even anything like the game,
Mhm.
Total troll.
but they're laughing to the bank. So
They
Oh my
are.
gosh. Tomb Raider. Laura Croft.
Which one
Oh,
are
yeah.
we talking
the
about?
20,
though?
the 2018. I
Okay.
feel like there's a trend going on with
the new
movies.
one. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like there's a trend going on with the ones I picked. There's big stories and a lot of action, a lot
Yeah.
of climbing. Anyways,
A lot of climbing.
Rope
You're so
climbing.
right.
this movie grossed 274 million worldwide, as the same as the 2001 film and the sequel in 2003.
Weird.
Huh.
Same number.
Yeah, so either someone just got bored and typed the same.
So does that mean
Yeah.
it did worse because inflation and stuff?
Inflation. True.
Probably.
Wow, that's weird.
I really, really enjoyed this movie, but a lot of people are going to say they're going to hate this. What I'm about to say, I think I enjoy the
boy.
movies better than the video game.
Have you played the new video?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Just making sure.
It's pretty cool.
Have you?
No, I own the first one in the new trilogy. I haven't played it yet.
Oh,
When I watched the trailer for I'll say the reboot because I'm used to the Angelina Jolie version.
yeah.
Mhm.
But when I saw the trailer for this reboot, at the end, I was thinking, how many rotary encoder puzzles are there in this freaking movie? I feel like 3 times in the trailer, she's twisting some ancient codex thing to like unlock a secret. I'm like, just geez, there's so many.
They're very
Spinning
faithful to the
dials.
game, probably.
Yeah, I guess so.
Too
That's a puzzle
faithful.
thing. But
Yeah.
is it just me, or is that actually a thing in the movie? Does it pop up a lot?
In the 2018 one, I feel like it was kind of like National Treasures, how it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not like this all, I'm going to walk over and click, pull, figure out the math kind of thing. It kind of made sense to move on with the scene.
What would you rate the movie, Nate?
For action and a lot of the fun, a lot of the jumping, climbing, definitely like a 7, or 8,
Whoa.
but for like the whole storyline, 5 or 6, it could have been better, but that's just the story. But as a whole, there was a lot of things I definitely loved about it. Kind of left the movie theater. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it basically, like, I remember this one, the way it was filmed, it seemed like it was something that was filmed 20 years ago, but then they just released it and then added all the updated effects.
Wow.
Because it had a lot of very practical stuff.
Yeah.
You know, she gets hurt a lot in this movie.
It sounds like the game.
It's all bloodied up.
Yeah.
That's one thing I appreciate about this one compared to Assassins, is there was a lot of practical. I guess that's where I'm the biggest sucker for, is practical effects compared to CGI when it's noticeable. And she was talking in an interview maybe not too long after the movie, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I had scrapes and scars and bumps and stitches," and I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly how acting should be with this type of role."
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we're finishing with the best for last, right?
Sure.
The OG video game movie
I don't know about that.
adaptation.
All right, what is it? Tell us. Break it open.
Super Mario Brothers.
Boo.
How many of you guys have seen this? So I can't be the only one. There's no way.
I've seen it. I loved it.
Oh,
Okay.
I saw it.
I have
Making
not
sure.
seen
Yeah.
it for good reason. It's like Joe with the Christmas special. I'm just like, no.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, so this
It's like a drug trip, the whole movie.
Oh yeah. So this movie came out in 93, and I don't know of any other video game movie that came out before this. So if anybody knows, like leave us a comment because we're kind of interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this movie probably multiple times growing up as a kid when it would come on TV. And as a kid, I knew this movie was not quite right, but yet I still watched it anyway.
Something's wrong here.
It's like
That is the perfect way to describe
So
this
funny.
movie. That should be on the poster.
Something's not
oh
quite
my
right.
god. I want to see
Mario,
that
fix
now. Oh my gosh.
Something's
this-
not right here.
Yeah. Like this movie is not even trying to be like Mario Brothers at all, really. Like just like the characters and that's it.
Yeah.
And even then that's very loose.
They took a lot of creative liberties to bring it into the
a
real
lot,
world in a weird way.
lot. Yes. So like movie starts out and they show a comet or a meteor or whatever that destroys the dinosaurs essentially, but the comet creates a parallel world and the surviving
Of course it
dinosaurs
does.
escape to the parallel world, and then the dinosaurs there eventually evolve into humans somehow.
Nice. The
And
Poobas, what are they called?
Like the Koopas, I guess.
Koopas. There you go.
Yeah, and that's a thing in the games. Like that's what Bowser is. He's King Koopa,
Sure.
and that's what they call him in this movie. Is King Koopa, and they don't call him by Bowser. I don't think
Weird.
at all. Not that I remember.
Huh.
So there's this parallel world, and then you got Mario and Luigi in our world. And Mario's played by Bob Hoskins, and they got John Leguizamo as Luigi. So, how do I even describe anything with the plot of this movie? Because it doesn't make much sense.
All right, that's the end of the episode. I'm sure.
It's basically. Oh, man.
There's a fungus among
Yeah,
us. That's how you
there's
started out.
it's like Princess Daisy from the dinosaur world ends up in our world like as a baby, and then King Koopa comes and like kidnaps her back into the what do they call it? Dino Hatton. It's not the
Oh my
Mushroom Kingdom.
gosh.
It's Dino
Really?
Hatton.
Not
Yes.
Man. That's funny. Not Manhattan.
Mhm.
Dino Hatton.
Yeah, and
So
That's bad.
I've seen people compare this world to like Blade Runner, I guess, but I've never seen Blade Runner, so I can't say. Some weird version of Blade Runner, maybe.
like they're
I don't know
high.
where dinosaurs are.
It's like a drugged
Oh
up
my
version of
God.
Blade Runner or
I
something.
think you just gave all the Blade Runner fans a heart
I'm sorry.
attack.
I'm just
Put the
saying what
right
I've
version.
seen. It's like a messed up version of Blade Runner or something.
And I guess it gets to me that the Super Mario Bros. Is the first video game.
Yeah, that's what it appears
movie.
like.
They had nothing to go on. They didn't know what they were doing. It's all
Yeah,
right.
and then it goes
So
Mortal
great.
Kombat. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I gotta share this with y'all. So here in April during quarantine, I'm looking at my Facebook because I did a post about this. A friend of mine wanted to show this to his daughter, and she's like 14, right? She's a big nerd too, so that part was fine. But I, especially being in the middle of quarantine, I was like, first of all, I thought, what did this child do to warrant such punishment? But I set out and I scoured Amazon, but lo and behold, they do not have it for streaming, and like the DVDs are hard to get now because it hasn't been reproduced.
Yeah.
And
I wonder why.
his daughter just saw the poster that the movie poster that I posted, and she was like, "Oh my lord, why do they look like that?"
That's funny. What happened? The only real detail I remember was the jumping boots, which I still think was pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I had read somewhere that the actor, the main guy who played Mario, said that he was like drunk the whole
Oh my
filming.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah,
You
I've
guys
seen
read
that
that?
too. They basically had to like drink.
Why is that a theme tonight? With these
poor actors.
People on substance abuse
Yes.
doing video game
Yeah.
They
movies.
get signed into this contract and then they hate it. What did I do to my career?
Yeah, he
Oh,
said it was
man,
the
you got some
worst
quotes?
thing I ever did in the 2007 interview. He said this, and that the whole
Wow.
experience was a nightmare. And
Oh,
there's like other very big profanity laced comments from him about this movie thing. He absolutely
Jeez.
hated it.
It says here that until Detective Pikachu last year, it was the only live
That's
action
right.
Nintendo
I wanted to mention that. I
property.
Huh.
forgot that.
That's interesting.
That's crazy. It took that long.
Thanks, Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
they've been missing out.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, probably
Yeah.
for good reason. What a legacy to leave behind for so long. The only live action-
Mhm.
I got
It's
scared.
nuts. Can you
Yeah,
imagine? Let's see, Tom Hanks playing the role as Luigi in this movie because
Oh my
apparently he was
gosh.
considered to be him,
No.
but they apparently rejected like the idea of him because he had a recent box office failure string, I guess, around that
He did?
time. I don't know. That's what this says here.
Tom Hanks?
I don't remember. Like, what kind of old 90s stuff do y'all remember him being in? I don't remember.
I mean, Hooch was good.
I think
Yeah.
this was right before Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Kind of revitalized it.
Yeah, I guess so. Big was good.
Dennis Hopper played
Mhm.
King Koopa in the movie, and I was watching the was it the Nostalgia Critic who said this? But they said he was like a cross
Yes.
between Donald Trump and Dr. Evil, and I'm like, oh my god, that is perfect because
That's terrible and funny.
That aged so. Oh my gosh, it's a great comparison. But can you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger playing him because he was considered as the role for that as well?
Oh no.
And Michael
I
Keaton.
mean, basically would have been Mr.
Yeah.
Freeze
Yeah.
just earlier.
He took another bad role.
A bit amazing. So this movie went through a lot of bad development, as y'all could have imagined, because the tone of this movie is all over the place.
Yeah.
So
It's a mess.
Disney was behind the distribution of this movie, and they called for a ton of rewrites during it, and they wanted it to be, something that appealed more to kids, because originally, like the director duo, which were husband and wife, they were like turning it into like some real gritty sort of adult movie. Like they shot scenes with strippers and other stuff that got edited out. So this movie was just a nightmare, like literally to work on.
When you see directors doing their own spin on a popular franchise that has like an established theme, an established audience and age range, then you see someone do something outside that, it's like, what are you thinking? This is for kids.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Why is there
Mhm.
drug use or innuendos or strippers,
No.
things, weird things like that? It's just, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's
Wrong audience.
no, it's just, it lacks any and all sense whatsoever. Like people really
Mhm.
thought those guys were crazy. Dennis Hopper was talking about the movie, the years later, and he was quoted as saying it was a nightmare, very honestly. It was a husband and wife directing team who were both control freaks and wouldn't talk before they made decisions.
Oh no.
That's nuts. And then he goes on to say, I was supposed to go down there for 5 weeks, and he was there for 17. It was so
Oh,
over budget.
Oh.
Speaking of the budget, yeah, they had a budget of like $42 to $48 million, and it only grossed $35 million worldwide. It flopped
Wow.
so bad.
I was
That
just
is
looking
bad.
here. It says Alan Silvestri did the music. My poor Alan
Oh,
Silvestri.
no, I didn't
We're
even
talking about the guy who
see
did Back to the
that.
Future here
Oh,
and the
wow.
Avengers.
Wow.
And
Oh no.
That's a low point in his career.
Oof.
Yeah.
Dang, that's odd as heck. Even though this movie was so dumb in so many ways, apparently, like they innovated and introduced many filmmaking techniques now considered pivotal in the transition from
Hey.
practical to digital visual effects. So that's
There
kind
you
of
go, someone
mind
had to do it.
blowing. Yeah, and I even saw a comment where I think somebody on the production team for Jurassic Park, because those were being made around the same time. They praised the effects for Yoshi in the movie because he was basically just like a tiny dinosaur in it.
Oh man, I forgot Yoshi was in that.
Yeah.
I forgot, or I just saw that the guy who narrates it is Homer Simpson's
Oh my
voice.
gosh.
That's hilarious. So weird.
Oh man, that is really weird.
So many random people in this movie.
Yeah, I don't understand how Nintendo didn't just like get fired up over this movie at all, because they're so protective of the properties nowadays. It's kind of mind-boggling that this even got made.
Well, after this movie, they were.
Yeah, this is why.
This is what started it all.
That's hilarious. There is actually another Mario film in the works now, and
Ooh.
Universal's Illumination animation division is going to be making it, and Shigeru Miyamoto is supposed to be working on the movie. You know, the guy who made Mario. So he's getting
That's a
his
good
hands
thing.
in on
Is
it
this
this
live
time.
action?
No, it's going to be an animated movie.
Fun.
Yeah, they probably.
As it should
Yeah,
be.
they would not go down the live
true.
action
This
again.
is so comic fantasy. It's weird to bring it into the real world. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So it's supposed to come out, I think in 2022 is what it's slated for so far. That's kind of
Cool.
interesting.
Well, looking into the future, we do have some other yet to be announced and in production movies that are coming up. I have a little list here. So Uncharted is I think on hold for production because of the virus. Apparently there's a Minecraft movie going to be made.
Oh my gosh.
Don't know how that's going to work. Borderlands, that's pretty cool. Gears of War, Mega Man, Just Dance. What?
What the heck? How do you do that? Why? What?
Okay. Here's an old one, Space Invaders.
Oh.
And Sim City. I don't have any idea how that's supposed to work.
Oh my gosh.
But those are things I found on IMDb. So we'll see how many of those actually come all the way through.
Alrighty.
But yeah.
Let's read the Scalding review of the Super Mario Brothers movie, shall we?
Yay.
Somebody gave it
not.
just 1/2 a star. And I'm just going to be substituting all this profanity with more PG words, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, it says, God, I want to take my own freaking life. I've had to subject myself to this dumpster incinerator of a movie twice already, and now I'm planning on watching it again with my husband simply to subject him as well, so I'm not the only one who suffers and has this freaking Vietnam flashbacks anytime I see an even slightly shrunken head, literally in any other form of media. The plot sucks. The characters are dog crap, and I genuinely quiver in fear and break into a hysterical frenzy when I remember how incredulously horrific this movie is, and how it can be more appropriately described as a psychological horror or a social experiment with the watcher as the main victim of the entire ordeal. If you've never seen this movie before and are wondering if you should, well, first off, what the heck is your life come to when you're asking yourself these kinds of questions? But secondly, yes, please watch it. It's so bad, it's good, and that's not in a good way. You'll find yourself breaking into tears all throughout and even after the movie, simply by how hysterically bad this movie is. God in heaven, I can't stress this enough. Please watch this. It's so freaking horrible. I created this account purely for the purpose of leaving this review. If that doesn't explain how traumatizing the experience was, I don't know what does.
I love it. It's bad in a good way. Or what did it say? It's so bad it's good in a bad way.
Yeah, it's so bad it's good, and that's not in a good way.
That's hilarious. That's some sheer poetry right there.
And there you go.
Oh boy. Well, I think we'll close out the episode with that. Best review I've heard in a while.
I know.
Well, thank you, Joe, for joining us on the show this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
And
always fun.
You other guys, you're kind of cool too. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You've been here for a while, 176 episodes or 27 episodes. I don't even know what number we're
I've
at.
been here for all of
I was
them.
going to say 176.
2 years.
Some secret episodes I don't know about.
Those are the Patreon episodes.
Oh
You
my
have to pay for
gosh.
those.
Oh, God.
New episode every day for those
Premium.
patrons.
Premium
I gotta
fans.
sign up now.
All right. Well, if you guys listening out there, we'd love to hear back from you. What are your favorite video game adaptations? Maybe because it's genuinely a good movie, or because it was terrible, or just sentimental and you don't know any better. Let us know. You can send us those movie titles or games in a comment or a message on our social medias, or our email, which is tvvpodcast@gmail.com, and maybe we'll read it on a future episode. Well, thanks for listening, and we hope you'll be back next week. Have a good one. If you like this show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, you can reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
I don't even know what I was going to say. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.